Hi all, it's Julian. I'm a little late, but I'm here now.
Okay, great, we have 4.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order now that we have a quorum. Perhaps something we should do for just courtesy's sake is introduce our new members. I think we only have one new member here present, and that would be Catherine. Catherine, did you want to tell us anything about your interest in this or background or anything you think we might find of interest while you're here?
Hi, I'm Catherine McCarran. I'm excited to be here, and I have interest in this committee because I started my own development firm about 4 years ago, and I specialize in economic and supply chain infrastructure and the transportation of logistics, commodities. So I have a passion for railroads and trucking depots, and so that is my main focus. And so with all the industrial warehousing, I want to, kind of help drive a bigger import-export type of city, which Phoenix is already kind of becoming that, especially on the 303 and the East Valley as well. So that is my interest, and then just the general public safety of all of transportation and development as a whole. So, yeah.
You can back very much. You can back. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have any other? Dominic, are you new to the meat committee? No, I didn't think so. No others. Okay, with that, we will move on to discussion and possible action on the minutes. Do I have a motion for approval? So moved. Motion for second.
Did we need to amend them? Did I catch an email, or are they the correct up-to-date version?
You're up to date
Okay.
on the email I sent you.
Okay, then I think it's been moved. I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say the same thing. No, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to elect a new chair and vice chair who will serve, I've been advised, beginning the next meeting. So I would like to open it up for anyone who would either like to nominate themselves or anyone who would like to nominate someone else.
Yeah, I'd like to do a nomination for Ed.
All right, we have a nomination for Ed. Do we have a nomination for anyone else or anyone else willing to step into this job and take on this task?
Does that have to be second?
He's nominated for the moment.
Oh, okay. I would just,
He doesn't have it until we vote.
he doesn't need a second? There's no second?
I don't think at this point we need a second to nominate.
I wasn't offering either, because I'm. So it's.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, hearing no one else expressing an interest, and I'm certainly not going to. All in favor of Ed being the new chairman, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There we have it. New chairman is elected.
Oh, thank you. Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it, and look forward to moving this committee forward and continuing the hard work for the next year. Thank you.
All right, Ed. Now, anyone be willing to serve as the vice chair for this committee next year?
I'm going to nominate Jamie, get back at him for nominating me. I'll nominate Jamie Truthan as the vice chair.
Sounds, Jamie, are you willing to serve if elected?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have anyone else that's like to express an interest in being the vice chair? No one online? Okay, with that, let's hold a vote. All those in favor of Jamie being our new vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Jamie, you got the job. It's not. You come into play when Ed doesn't show up.
Won't be off,
Okay, moving on, we will have the director's update and I'll turn it over to Phil.
Chair Callow, members of the advisory committee, thank you. Congratulations to the new membership. Looking forward to working with you as well, new leadership. I wanted to thank, first of all, Abby, Dominic, and Michael for your time. Appreciate it. Serving as student representatives on the committee this past year. Your input has been valuable, and I appreciate your time and dedication. We'd like to give other students at Phoenix the opportunity to serve, so we'll be opening up the application process to give other students a chance to serve in the next year. Again, thank you for your service and the committee and dedication to Vision Zero. I also want to thank Jay Bieber and Jim Farley for their service on the committee. Their terms have expired, so we no longer on the committee. However, I want to recognize that their input during this service was extremely valuable, and I appreciate their dedication. And welcome also Catherine Mulkerin as the newest member representing Councilman Robinson's district. I'd like to introduce our new Deputy Director of Traffic Services Division, Jorge Riveros. Jorge comes to us from the city of San Diego, where he served as a transportation director. He has over 25 years of diverse civil engineering and administration experience and is passionate about urban transportation mobility. He also served in Nashville and Austin, but he went to U of A, so we're getting him to come back home, and we're very excited about his future here and very glad to have his expertise on board in the department, especially as it relates to Vision Zero. We are continuing to apply for Safe Streets and Road grant opportunities. We just hit the net last round, trying to focus on some of our more dangerous corridors. So that has been our focus most recently. I want to address the request for agenda items and why you may not have seen those yet that have been requested. You will see some of them soon. If we don't include an item, it doesn't mean we're not working on it. We're just preparing and making sure that we are prepared. For example, I know there's been a request on leading pedestrian intervals as a future agenda item. We have not yet included this item, but currently there's a study underway at NAU to identify best practices, which should be complete by the end of the summer. So it was the staff's had advised that we wait until the end of that study, but we do plan to bring it forward to the committee. On something a little more current, also, it was brought to our attention by a couple of people, Nicole Rodriguez, as well as PSP and Annie Eldon, that the e-scooter and e-bike age limit of 18 may not be the most appropriate. We've been reviewing it. We even have worked with legal, been doing research on peer cities, and may be in line for a reduction to 16 or 14 or something more appropriate. But it might be something good for this committee to discuss at some point too, and advise us on as we continue that process. Doing that review, of course, it has to go to city council, and so we'll, when we have everything in order, we will be briefing them as well, and then getting back to those individuals who we appreciate bringing into my attention and our attention. So that's my address. Thanks to the new members, thanks to the people who served already, and Jorge, who's filling in tonight for his staff, and everybody else that puts this together. Laura's done a lot of work, and among others, Brianna. So a lot goes behind the scenes to put this together, so I appreciate their work as well. So, thank you, Chair and members of the committee.
Thank you, Joe. Jorge, would you like to introduce yourself to the committee or have a few comments just to give us who you are?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Chair Cal and members of the CAC. My name is Jorge Riveros. Again, new Deputy Director over Traffic Services. As Joe pointed out, I was recently in San Diego as the Transportation Director there. So serving in a top 10 city in the United States. So I've got a lot of experience around a lot of the programs that are here. And so looking forward to coming to Phoenix, coming home to Arizona. I'm actually a Tucson native, but a lot of time spent in Phoenix. And so I'm excited about being back and helping out where I can. So, and I see that it's a great team so far. A lot of momentum to propel Phoenix into, a new territory and be one of the progressive cities, globally, hopefully. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions of Joe while we're All 9 o'clock.
Just more of a comment, feedback. Really appreciate you bringing up the electric assisted bikes. Would love to see that on the next agenda. Just bring that up at a future agenda, but it sounds like you're already planning on it. I think that's exactly what this committee should be doing, is making recommendations, voting on recommendations. I think that's very appropriate for this committee. I think it doesn't make any sense that, my daughter is 15 and a half, and she can drive a car. She can drive my car with me, but I can't let her use my electric assisted bicycle that I rode here today. It just doesn't make any sense, I think, from a safety or legal standpoint. So I'm glad we're going to re-examine that here quickly and hopefully recommend a change to that. Really appreciate you bringing that up, and look forward to the rest of the meeting.
I'd like to make a comment on its comment. I'm extremely disappointed that you use electric assisted. Like, I thought you were out there using 100% human muscle power to get some.
Yeah, I used to, and then my wife got me an electric bike, and I was skeptical as well, but now I just love it. So I know Joe probably said the same thing when I was riding alongside him with his, he had his bike shorts on, his whole gear, and was still passing me even though I had my electric assisted bike. So.
Just until he peeled off, and then I was like, thank God he's gone. Yeah.
Any other comments or discussion?
Yeah, I have one. I just wanted to say thank you to Joe for just being very transparent about the agendas and where they're at, because I think that's very important for the committee members and especially the public, just kind of know where we're at with it. So thank you.
Okay.
One last comment. I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Joe for coming to this week or this month is Bike to Work month. And I saw Joe, you were there, rode by you. That was just yesterday, I suppose, was Bike to Work Day, which was a fantastic event. And thank you to everybody at Streets that participated in that event. It's just great to see you out there in the community on many fronts, kind of leading the way and putting your time kind of out in front and showing a great example there. So thank you so much.
All right, let's move on to Safe Routes to School program, information discussion, and I have Carl Langford making the presentation.
Actually, Carl is going to do it instead.
Okay, and is Carl Jorge?
Jorge.
Okay, you said Carl Jorge.
Yeah, Jorge instead of Carl.
Okay,
So
all right, we'll turn it over to Jorge.
you can have public comments after.
Yes,
Thank you, Chair Callow, members of the CAC. So I'm here in Carl's, in his absence, and so you get the less intelligent person presenting on this, but I'll see what I can do my best here. So today, again, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Safe Routes to School program. Our partners from MAG unfortunately could not be here, so I'm going to cover a little bit of their information. But please excuse me if I don't have all the pertinent information. I do have some people here that may be able to help a little bit if you have other questions. Laura, can we go? Oh, I can click it, right? I've got the clicker. Thank you. Yeah. It does work. So a little bit about the program itself. So the City of Phoenix has administers the school Safe Routes to School through MAG. Really what we act as is the pass-through. So we get funding from MAG, and we'll cover a little bit here. We act as a pass-through with the support of the school. The schools typically come to us or come through and ask for safe routes to be implemented. And so you can see here, we're responsible for reviewing, responding to pedestrian and traffic related concerns that affect areas around all public, private, charter, and parochial schools around the Phoenix area. We've got about a little over 500 schools, 500 schools in the Phoenix area. So as you can see, that's a lot of schools that we have, we can help out. Some of the things that are under the purview may be replacing, repairing damaged or missing signs, which is something that we do anyway. We typically go out and take a look at, make sure that crosswalks and signs are in good repair and are visible. Again, we have a little bit limited, work inside the Safe Routes to School program. Again, that's, we're reliant on schools to come through and ask for Safe Routes to School programs to be implemented in the city of Phoenix. We also look at crosswalk concerns, as I said, just making sure that crosswalks are in good condition. We do have some bicycle rodeos and community events that are limited now. We'll cover that here in a second. But anyway, so here we show some of the community events that we used to be involved in historically. Did some bike rodeos and walk to school events back in the day. Of course, with COVID, that kind of came to a standstill. So we're not as active as we used to be in this space. That doesn't mean that it can't be, brought back to life again, but just that's what's been happening. Also with staff, not having enough staff or not having a staff person to run the program. We've been reliant on, just the team that we have right now, so they help out. In fact, one of our members here, Melissa, does help from time to time with some of the program as well. One of the things that we're doing as part of the Road Safety Action Plan, we're looking at safe routes to school within that program. Some of the objectives there, as you can see, are providing recommendations that our staff will provide recommendations to the city's safe routes to school program guidelines. We're working in conjunction with a consultant right now to help us develop some of these objectives. They will identify and prioritize school locations to conduct future safe routes to school studies. And then on our side, we're looking at trying to conduct at least 2 safe routes to school studies at different locations based on those recommended guidelines that come from our consultant after the work is done. A little bit about our partnership with MAG here. So the MAG Safe Routes to School program in itself, their study objectives, of course, focused on the safety of children who are going to and from school. They examine the infrastructure and environmental conditions around the schools, like the sidewalks, safe neighborhoods, and then they develop recommendations with activities that improve safety, aid in the reduction of traffic and air pollution, and help to increase physical activity for young children. In particular, if we look at some of those things, they're compiling existing information, looking at school policies and programs, looking at the school site plans, school arrival, dismissal time. They may look at walking and bicycle boundaries around the schools, the locations of the building entrances, number of locations, duration of school crossing guards. So they're compiling all the existing data around the school itself to make some recommendations. Some of the study activities that go along with it, the traffic and crash data collection. Again, they're taking a look at a lot of the site conditions, the assessment of issues and barriers, for example, surveying for parents and students to see how kids are getting to school, and compiling, again, that existing information, taking school site inventories, again, capacity and location and security of bicycle storage areas, for example, site access points for walking and bicycling, making sure, looking at marked crosswalks and locations and the controls around that area. So that kind of takes into account the school site inventory. Again, pick up, drop off locations, the walking and biking assessments, and school community meetings. And then they do a little bit of walking, biking route map development, and then drafting a final report. Again, the regional funding source here is non-infrastructure safe routes to school through MAG, and we act as the pass-through. So the City of Phoenix acts as the pass-through for that funding so that they can provide some of that infrastructure to the schools that ask to have that done.
Would I
Yes.
ask you to pause for?
Sure.
I am so sorry. I forgot to share it.
Oh, okay.
People online.
I wonder if I'm sharing the right one. I think I am.
I think you're good.
Yes, that's the page he's on. And now we're back to them again.
I'm gonna go back. Should I start over?
No. What slide are you on?
I'm on slide 5, 6, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, like, please don't make me do that again.
So sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So again, we just covered regional funding sources. As I said, MAG provides the funding, City of Phoenix acts as the pass through in that regard. Wow, this is difficult because I can't see the walking and biking assessments. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. So taking a look at, again, sidewalks, the width, the continuity, making sure that there's, adequate sidewalks available for those safe routes to school, looking at any obstructions, perhaps there's utility poles in the way, so taking a look at that. Making sure there's some sort of separation from traffic, and then again, looking at the sidewalk condition in general. In terms of the crosswalks, presence and visibility of crosswalk pavement markings, making sure that they have the retroreflectivity that we're looking for. Making sure that there's accompanying pedestrian signals if needed, and then visibility of oncoming traffic from crossing locations. And again, we're looking at traffic and its behavior, the driver behavior, including speeding, anything of that nature. And then again, the overall surroundings as, they plan out these safe routes to school. So the general feeling of safety, making sure that there's no litter, trash in the area, and making sure that there's trees. Those are very important things when we're thinking about the safe routes to school.
Jorge, my apologies for interrupting you midway.
Yeah.
You say walking and biking assessments, who's actually doing the assessment? Is this is something MAG does? I know you mentioned Phoenix streets as a pass through. Who in this, your presentation is actually doing the assessment?
So I might defer, I would imagine, just based on my experience, but maybe Melissa, you might know.
I've got a lot of questions, Jorge. I apologize in advance. I know you're new, so I apologize in advance.
So MAG has a consultant on call that does the safe routes to school evaluation. So it's a third party vendor that does the studies for it.
Okay, and it's something that MAG pays for, and it's Phoenix is a pass through?
There's a.
Okay.
Yep.
And how does a school go or a district go about getting signed up for this? And is there a wait list?
Yes. It's something that we can make recommendations to MAG to sign up for. With the school, we'll create kind of a partnership and present it to MAG as a possible location to conduct a safe routes to school study.
And did I hear it right earlier? Two schools a year? Or 2 studies a year? Did I just make that up? How many of these are being done?
So let me jump in for a quick second. So committee members, as it relates to MAG's Safe Routes to School program, they usually have a call for projects, which then schools can apply through the City of Phoenix, because we're kind of the pass-through, to get funding where MAG will pay for a consultant to come on and help develop, in conjunction with the school, the community, and City of Phoenix, the Safe Routes to School. What the 2 per year that Jorge was referencing is, as part of our Vision Zero plan, we have brought on a consultant to put together a program that the City of Phoenix could then also offer opportunities to do the same exact thing that's not going through MAG funding. So there would be multiple avenues to be able to maximize making sure that our Safe Routes to School program is strong, both with the Road Safety Action Plan as well as the funding through MAG. We did reach out to MAG to understand when their next call for projects is. At this time, they don't have a date, but they assured us that the moment they are aware, that they would let us know so that we could make sure we're communicating it out to all of the schools.
Brandon, when you say a call for projects, is that issued to the city or to the school districts?
I believe it's through the city, and then we would work with we can notify the school districts.
Thank you.
And so just so I'm clear, the MAG, there's no projects right now. We don't know when it's going to be. And then that's a pass through. And then there's another avenue directly through streets. Is that avenue open right now, or is it going to be open in the future?
It's going to be open in the future, because we're developing our program right now with the consultant that Jorge mentioned. And then our goal is, once we have the guidelines developed, then we would put that out with the hopes that we would do 2 per year, 2 schools per year.
And what do you think the time frame is for that?
So my understanding is, I thought maybe by the end of summer, we were going to have the Safe Routes to School wrapped up, but we can go back and confirm. on that, committee member Hermes, and get back to you, make sure we share that information with you in terms of that timeline.
Thank you. Sorry, Jorge, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's quite all right. I'm thankful for having Melissa and Brianna here, and that was some of the information I was going to cover, but Brianna did it much more eloquently than I could have.
Yeah, I do have a quick question. They are public streets. Why are we waiting for the schools to ask to have those on public streets instead of us just doing it?
So committee member Tomich, part of the reason is that due to limited funding and limited resources. As Jorge mentioned, we have over 500 schools. Typically, we've only had one school safety coordinator. That position is currently vacant. We're working on filling that position. So in the interim, we are working with schools when they notify us of any issues or concerns. We'll go out, we'll meet with the school. I know just this week, committee member Hermes reached out to Joe, and him and Jorge went out and met with several of the community members as well as the school to talk through some of the issues that we're going to take a look at. So on a case-by-case basis, we are going out and working with schools. We just don't have the funding and resources, but we're going to be setting up that program so that we can make sure that we're very proactive and working directly with the schools to make sure that the areas in and around the schools are as safe as they can be for our school children.
Thank you, Chair. I did have a good time for me to say thank you for coming out, Jorge and Director Brown. We have a really dangerous intersection. So some of you might know one of the hats I wear in the community is I'm the board president of the Osborne School District Governing Board. And we had a Safe Routes to School committee that we formed back in the day, years ago, when you had this Safe Routes to School coordinator. You had a wonderful one named Don Cross. I don't know if anybody in this room knows him. I mean, I think, I proposed that we, the hawk light near our school, that one of them that he helped with, we call it the Don Cross hawk light, He was just a phenomenal Safe Routes to School coordinator and showed me how valuable that position is, especially with the right person. And, so it's really unfortunate that position hasn't been filled. But anyways, I appreciate you guys coming out and seeing the intersection at 11th Avenue in Clarendon on Monday morning. 2 days later, the school was hit by a car.
School was hit?
The school was hit by a car, driving and through the intersection at an extremely reckless speed through a neighborhood. It happened yesterday at 2:30 p.m. Thank God we happened to have an early release day yesterday and no kids were in the school. We have tens of thousands of dollars in damage. These kids that have no classroom to use because, and I can show you guys a picture later, there's a big hole in the school because of the streets are unsafe. And they are, as you guys saw on Monday morning, they are encouraging and allowing cars to drive recklessly and drive way too fast. And so I'm encouraged by this. I'm also at the same time kind of discouraged that there's no avenues right now. This is something we've been working on for a long time. And I know, Jorge, you just got here a month ago and I'm cognizant of that. But we really need help now so that, we were lucky, I suppose, in a way, that no kids were hurt yesterday. But that's not always going to be the case. That was, by the way, the second time one of our schools in this school district was hit this week. One of our other schools on 15th Avenue was hit by a car as well. So this is an epidemic that is very serious that we need help now taken care of. So I appreciate your time and look forward to solutions here that we can implement immediately.
Yeah, so how many traffic engineers does the city of Phoenix have? Like, what's the number?
So we have Melissa, who's joined us here today. We have Reed Henry, who's also here today, and we have Simon Ramos. Then we have Carl Langford. So that is the extent. We have 4 traffic engineers on staff right now.
Okay, just because like what Ed is saying, that's very dangerous, and we need to focus on schools. That's extremely important.
Was speed an issue?
Yeah, both of the schools got hit just this week. Speed was the issue. And the road design also, allowed the width of the road being a major factor. On 15th Avenue, when there was school, there was no protection on the bike lane. And so, again, there was nobody in the bike lane at the time. I guess part of it was lucky. The other part is people don't use the bike lane. Our families don't feel safe using the bike lane because it's unsafe. So, that's the times our schools have been hit this year. Every year our schools are getting hit. One of our other schools got hit last year twice on Osborne Road. Now, we made changes to Osborne Road, which are very much appreciated. That school on Osborne Road has not been hit this year, and the road change is the reason why. And so we need more of that. Well, I did have a question about.
Can I ask?
Go ahead.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? When you say the bike lane isn't used, I'm familiar with one on 15th.
You're up.
I'm familiar with the one on the 15th, on 15th Avenue. Is that what you're referring to, 15th Avenue, or the one?
Yeah, the one on 15th Avenue, exactly. And so the feedback we've gotten from the families, Tom and Biker, you and me, we use it, but the feedback I get from the families is that even the ones that live really close by, they won't bike or walk to school because of the conditions on Missouri and conditions on 15th, that they're driving, even a half a mile.
Yeah.
Even though we're not sending a bus because they're in the walking zone for the district. It's just, I've got a couple of girls in the school district myself, and I get it, it might be, I feel confident out there, but I wouldn't put my kids on those unprotected lanes.
Jorge, back to you.
Well, here you go. We're at, this is not working now.
Yeah.
Now you did it. Very good.
So we were already on discussion of questions, so you guys you did a great job there, but, yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the sales pitch. If you have friends, if you know people that want to join the city, tell them to come and apply. We're, again, as Brianna alluded to, we are a little short-staffed. We are looking for positions. We do want to fill those that we think are critical, in terms of what we consider public safety. I know we talk about fire and police as public safety, but I also think about transportation and the work that we do. And sometimes we are the first responders, and so I think that filling those critical positions is extremely important. So if there are people that if there's somebody in the community that has the experience and can apply, please let them know.
And for Mr. Chair and Jorge, is the Safe Routes to School coordinator position, which as you can tell, I'm harping on it, but I think it's a critical position. That's one of the ways I got involved with working with streets because my superintendent of the school district knew that person, and he had really built connections with the superintendents. Is that position open right now?
That position is open.
Okay.
Yeah.
By open, you mean vacant?
Is it being advertised? I guess my question is there something I can send out in the community that says, hey, come apply? Because I think I'd love to help cast a wide net.
Right. No, I was making sure because I'm pretty sure that we haven't advertised that position yet. So we're working on batches of positions right now within the department. That is definitely on the list of wanting to get out there quickly. And we're reassessing the way, as you said, Vice Chair Hermes, looking at how we can cast a wider net and maybe entice people even outside of the Phoenix community to come take a look at Phoenix and see what they can do out here. So yeah, we're actually looking at that as well. In terms of internally within the department, we're taking a look at our HR team and see how they can help us kind of get more of the word out as well.
Well, when do you anticipate that the Safe Routes to School coordinator position will come open, will be advertised to people who can start applying?
Sure. I don't know that we have a timetable right now, so as I just came in, all that falls under my purview in particular. And so again, I'm trying to look at the division itself and kind of see where, if we're aligned strategically in the way that we should be. So I would anticipate, as we look at that, how many positions do we need? Where do we need them? What does safety look like? I think it's going to take at least a couple of months to kind of think about where that is. And so, but also, it's contingent on how fast our human resources can help with us. So, but we do anticipate trying to get those positions out as quickly as we can,
So if I could get Chair Callow and members of the committee, it's a title structure issue too. I mean, Brianna is much more familiar with it than we have to change the title to move forward. So it is a goal of ours. We've already increased our numbers. We've already started to move the needle across the agency and across the department. And it is a very important position for us, and maybe something we need to expand on beyond just the one person in the future. So we are building it out, and there was a decision to wait on some of this until I arrived, and there was a decision to wait on some more until Jorge arrived. Now that we have that leadership in place, I think working with Brianna, we are going to very actively continue to fill these positions. If you look on the website, you'll see some that are advertised now. There are two positions that we're in the process of filling. Those are management assistants that report to Jorge and to me. And we are in the process at 60 applicants. Many of them came from outside of Phoenix, so we're very happy that that's going forward, because those are key positions to coordinate on all of this stuff. So we are moving everything forward. Brianna, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that the key in the school safety coordinator position really has been, like you've alluded to, Don was, kind of one of a kind, right? Like he did really well with the front-facing portion of that coordinator position, as well as the technical side. And so we've really struggled because we have filled that position a couple times, and both of the individuals who sat in those positions were strong on one side or the other, but not necessarily both. So we were trying to figure out the right position that really can be that individual in the community with the schools trying to make a difference. So I think we've identified that, and so we're very hopeful once we get that posted that we're going to get a lot of interest in that position and work towards working with all of the schools, and hopefully we'll have the study done and those opportunities set up to do those Safe Routes to School studies through the city program.
Thank you, Veronica. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Joe.
And can a retired Phoenix police officer or a firefighter join city staff without jeopardizing their pension?
Yes.
Has any effort been made to focus on recently retired? I mean, you mentioned public safety, and you're public safety professionals. So any effort been made to, these are young folks who, still probably are, want to continue their career in some fashion.
I was going to say, I think as Brianna alluded to, we're trying to find that balance, right? There's the technical and there's the, sort of the front facing. I don't know that we've actually made any effort on the law enforcement or public safety front. I think as we reassess what the position looks like, we've got to make sure that we take those into consideration. Like Brianna said, Mr. Cross was maybe one of a kind. It's typically very difficult to find somebody who encompasses all those great values. And so having a person who has one or the other is great, but it doesn't really help us fill that kind of that balance to be out there in the community, being at events, taking their weekends, taking, afternoons to go out, as well as being able to come back and coordinate with the engineers and, and saying, hey, this is what we really need out there, and having that sort of, strategic, sort of planning around and engineering around Safe Routes to School programs. So I think we're looking for a balanced individual. It's not to say that we wouldn't consider others, but yeah.
Any other comments or discussion? Ms. Catherine?
Sorry, as far as funding for this Safe Route to Schools program, like those allocations, as the city is the pass-through, as we stated, are like partial bonds being allocated from that, or I just want to understand, kind of the amounts and what funding looks like, dollar amount, if you have, doesn't have to be specific, but how much we're allocating to be able to do this program, roll it out and grow it.
So committee member, so in terms of the cost, for the MAG program, I'm unsure exactly what their costs are. I would say the average cost of an engineering study of this type probably is around $50,000 to $50,000. Right now with the City of Phoenix, we have $10 million dedicated to the Vision Zero Road Safety Action Plan, but obviously that is looking at many facets of the program. So it's for construction or infrastructure improvements as well as studies. And so I would anticipate that we would probably be allocating, once we have the program set up, if we were to do two, roughly about $100,000 a year for that.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, I do have a note from the audience that someone would like to speak on this item. And are they going to speak up there, Laura?
Yeah.
Stacy Champion, would you like to come to the podium?
Sure.
It's a person we've never seen before. We don't know anything about this individual.
Okay, if not, I have a very loud voice. Okay. I don't think it works. Wait, hold on. Check.
You're good. I think it was.
All right, well, I have a loud voice. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. Coming here is terrible for my blood pressure. First of all, I just need to say that. I'm mind boggled by this. We have 525 schools, 2 schools per year. That's 262 years. That is insane. That is bonkers. If there is one group of individuals in the city we should try to keep alive, it's children, for crying out loud. Like, that's bonkers to me. I don't understand. So much of this is not rocket science. I don't understand why you can't all look at a school that has done it right. There's some in my new neighborhood, thank you very much, and create a template and a toolkit and create something that is scalable and give it to all of the different school districts. Like, why is that challenging to the city? Like, it is insane to me. Speaking of one of these areas, I have moved, so you will hear me grumble about 15th Avenue and Indian School plenty now. But I see on 15th Avenue, I see people driving directly in the unprotected bike lanes every day. I wouldn't send my kid down that bike lane and feel okay with it. And then I'm just curious, and there's a pylon that's smushed on the corner of Osborne and 15th Ave, so somebody can put that on their list. So thankfully there wasn't a child or a kid walking or a kid on a bike when somebody took that corner and took out the pylon and smushed it. And out of curiosity, how long has that position been vacant? I think
Years. It's been filled, I think
maybe 2 years.
That's bonkers. Like, either this is a priority for the city or it isn't. You cannot have it both ways. It has to, you can't, 260 years, 2 schools per year. That is ridiculous. That is embarrassing. We're the 5th largest city in the country. Do we not want to keep our children alive? That's bonkers to me.
Nicole, your time's
We
up.
can do better. And my name is Stacy.
I'm sorry, Stacy. I said Nicole because she just wrote down Nicole's name on here as someone who wants to speak. I'm sorry, Stacy.
I don't know why this doesn't work. Hey, but it's a compliment, right?
Actually, I have Beatrice Jensen as our next speaker.
What happened with this mic over here? Here, let's use this mic over here because I can't figure out why that one's not working.
Good idea.
Oh, I'm going to sit down there.
You can sit down.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Beatrice Johnson, and I would like to speak on this matter. You may or may not know me. My sister was Dorothy Jean Dale Chambers on April 26, 2022. Her and her companion were killed at 32nd Street and Yale. There was no light there, even though there was a contract that was issued in 2020. A call out was put in 2020, and 2021, there was a contractor who received that and was supposed to put 4 lights in before May
Yeah, can I,
2022. Yeah,
do you mean street lights, the illumination kind?
the hawk lights,
Okay, thank you.
yes. It's supposed to be the hawk lights because 32nd Street and Yale, they have put it up, but people have died, and my sister and her companion were killed that night. And if you go over there now, it's still not safe. It needs to be those speeding lights where people can understand that there's a walkway, a crosswalk, and that it is a dangerous area. And I'm not understanding, that's my sister was 67 and she chose to be homeless, her and her companion, and they were homeless and they were killed.
Beatrice,
But I can't understand
I
about,
don't mean to interrupt you, but we are talking about safe route to school right now.
that's what I'm getting ready to say.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. I got it. I was gonna say that if they can't be safe, and I find it appalling that the children are not being protected. So I was gonna put that all together, okay? We got adults and we got the babies, but the babies, like they said, are our future. What is wrong with this system in the city of Phoenix, that they are not protecting not just the children, but human beings. Human beings and children, they're the same. And so I see a big problem of, it just doesn't make sense, like she said. It's not rocket science. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry to hear about your tragedy.
And public comment is public comment, so let's let them have their time and we can ask questions afterwards, because we can't keep interrupting them.
Well, I wanted to clarify, or
Oh, yeah, but
I'm,
just let her talk, because she was getting to the point. I just wanted to point that out. Public comment.
And you're gonna.
now we have Nicole.
One's up. Thank you. Your next one? Okay.
Thank you for patience. Just real briefly, I want to echo, is this on? Or can you?
You need to give that one.
Okay, so with the safe routes to school, I know staff is stretched thin. And we learned that we have 525 schools. So essentially, what would we need for traffic engineers? And we know that streets has the capability of contracting now. We see it time and time again with studies. So what would it take to maybe do that too in the meantime? And I truly believe we don't need to go to schools to ask them to make their streets safer for kids that are public streets. We know where the incidents are high. Using that data and bringing it in as a higher priority and bring that up to not just having the specialists on this and some kind of interfacing interaction, which is great to have, but just in the interest of time with the little resources we have to think outside the box on how we approach this. And I always go back to saying, yes, the public needs to play a part in this too. But at this point, it's kind of hard to do that when we had our budget hearings. We could say only so much and ask for this, but in the end, it really comes down to city leadership having to also push this, because we have been pushing this for years and years. And we also know that a lot of parents don't have the capacity to actually be engaged on safe routes to school. It's an unfortunate system that we have. So we essentially have to be the voice for them. And you know, we have people here that are able to speak up for their school districts. Imagine how many more out there that would love to know about these opportunities that maybe don't. And you can only get so much out with social media posts and emails. That's why I'm ushering to go out and actually assess these areas that where there's high impacts already, or where there's the potential for high impacts. So I just want to keep it more on the technical level. And thank you for allowing the time.
Thank you. I do not have anyone else, and you actually went under. I'm proud of you. We do not have anyone else signed up to speak, so since that was information discussion and we have had our discussion, and with that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is street lighting and pedestrian safety, a very broad subject.
Chair Gallo, members of the committee, I would like to introduce Sel Chalmers, who has been a consultant in the Phoenix area for about 40 years. He has a wealth of diverse knowledge in terms of traffic engineering and is, sorry, okay. That's, you can make sure I'm sharing.
Laura, whipping around now.
So we're on the wrong one. Did you want me to do
No,
that one?
this is good. Yep, you could just put it in presentation mode. Perfect, thank you. And is an expert on street lighting. So I'm gonna pass it over to him, and then after his very informative presentation, I'm gonna kind of go over the City of Phoenix perspective on what we're doing.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity to present about street lighting. It's a discipline of mine for many, many years. And now that I've been around for 40 years, I feel historic too. So we'll start out with some history. So street lighting in the city of Phoenix is not new. So you see on the left is Van Buren that wasn't lit back in the 1940s. And you see Central Avenue when it's lit in the 1950s. So I think what we've seen over the years is kind of very historic in terms of the technology that's now available for street lighting. We've gone from gas lights to incandescent lights or arc lights to metal halide and high pressure sodium. So I'll talk a little more about that. But I think it's really important to know that it's been around for a long time. This is the current City of Phoenix standard for street lighting in the city. It was adopted originally by the council in 1961, has been updated throughout the years. And it's, been very effective for the city in terms of providing lighting on arterial streets, on collector streets, and also on local streets. And of course, something new has come along, and that's the Vision Zero plan that was signed by council here. And what you guys are, your charge here as a committee is to implement this plan, which is great. And I think it's good because it highlights street lighting. And one of the reasons we're interested in lighting at night is because most of the pedestrian crashes happen at night in terms of the fatal crashes. So that's one of the objectives of the strategic plan or the Vision Zero plan. And it's also an emphasis area to improve lighting as a part of that plan. So just to get a little background on the plan, then we can go into who are the authorities in roadway lighting or street lighting. And I noticed in the city of Phoenix, street lighting is one word, not two. So that's my first attempt at a bad joke. Because I live in Tempe. But anyway, we have the Illuminating Engineering Society, we have the PHXTV, and an AASHTO. Those all have lighting design guides. And a lot of times there's a real concern of lighting at night in terms of its potential environmental impacts, its costs. The International Dark Skies Association, which was started in Tucson, and the Illuminating Engineering Society have come together with this graphic to show when lighting is really useful, when it's targeted and it's at low levels and it's controlled and you have color. So that's really what street lighting is all about, is a controlled light source at night at a very low intensity that provides the ability to be seen and see. So it increases the visibility potential this was a really challenge for an engineer. I actually summed up what I think the value of lighting is on one page. These are somewhat qualitative statements, but there's a lot of quantitative data that supports street lighting in terms of not only its impact in making roads safer, but also providing security light. And I'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute. This was in your packet. This is some the great information. The Federal Highway Administration is really emphasizing street lighting here this year, and I'll talk a little more about that. But this gives you a lot of information, and the FHWA is really leading the charge on trying to improve nighttime visibility throughout the country on our streets. This is just some kind of the purpose and benefits of roadway lighting. I think a lot of times people look at street lighting from a driver's perspective. It's like, I have headlights, what else do I need? So really what street lighting does, it opens up that visibility potential to make it, you have the ability to have peripheral vision and also see in front of your car, beyond your headlights, behind your car, but also provides lighting for people who don't have headlights, like pedestrians and bicyclists and, you know, people who use the road at night. So this is just some of the things that it increases wayfinding, the ability to find your way, pedestrian safety, aesthetics, and enhanced personal security. And this, we're doing a project, Dibble's doing a project now. We're the town engineer for the town of Guadalupe. And if you're familiar with Guadalupe, it has a lot of challenges, especially at nighttime crime. So what we've done there is we've combined street lighting with security lighting. Security lighting is all about uniformity. It's about being able to see into an area as well, so you know if you want to go into that area or not. And I think that's a great benefit of street lighting, is it allows you to see into an area and say, well, I think I'll go another way. I'm not sure what I'm seeing. Or if it's dark, you can't, you're going to discover something as you go. So this is just a little bit on what security lighting is all about, from the Illuminated Engineering Society. Also, street lighting, the value of street lighting is recognized by NOCTO and also the National League of Cities. And it's pretty, qualitative statements about visibility and safety, increasing pedestrians' experience because they don't have lighting. So it helps them detect if there's tripping hazards and helps them get along their way. And it's a part of a good urban street design guide by NOCTO. Getting into a little bit more into the different types of lighting. On the left, you see the high pressure sodium. That was the mainstay for lighting technology or street lighting technology for the last 20, 30 years. And we see the same street with the new LED. And LEDs are amazing technology. A lot of people think they're actually more energy efficient in terms of producing light. That's not necessarily true. They're very efficient at projecting light where you need it. So in the old days, the high pressure sodium, you lost a lot of the light in the fixture itself. It never got out of the fixture. So that's where a lot of the waste was. But in terms of lumens per watt, it was about the same as LEDs. But what also LEDs allows you to do, and if you've seen the purple lights, everybody's seen the purple lights. Well, that's an early generation of technology, and that's just about the phosphors that are mixed in the different LEDs to produce that white light. Because actually, white light is an equal balance of the primary colors. And when you lose one, that's what happens. You get purple or some other distortion.
Was that in Tempe, that photo?
Yes.
Okay.
It's right outside my house.
Mr. Chairman, so are you saying the purple lights are failing? They're in the process of failing?
Yeah, well, it really, I've worked with a lot of different technologies and traffic control technologies and different sign sheetings and pavement markings. And my advice to all of our clients, like City of Phoenix, ADOT, is never be first on a conversion on some of these technologies. Usually wait to the third or fourth generation once they have worked out some of the bugs. A lot of times there's a big push, oh yeah, we got to get the latest, greatest thing. That's fine, let somebody else find out what's wrong with it. And then you buy that second or third generation. And I think right now, and you look at LED technology now, I mean, it's just absolutely amazing what they're doing with these lighting, the lighting fixtures now.
Sure, you want to see an example of that? Come off the 51 going south onto Northern. And there's several lights there that are purple. And I never did understand why. Now I know. They're actually in the process of failing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the advantages of LEDs, and of course, we're still finding this out, is how long they last and how they will fail. Because it's, they say it's 100,000 hours because, how many hours do you burn a light every years in the thousands? So you're looking at a fixture that might last 8 or 9 years. Will it actually last 8 or 9 years? Well, we'll have to just see. But I mean, that's just some of the early technology that is failing. And it's not all the fixtures. So, but yeah, it's, and actually purple's my favorite color. So, and really you have to look at the way you look at lighting. There's no lighting, there's some lighting, and then there's continuous lighting. And usually on roadways, we like to use continuous lighting on our arterials, our big busy streets, because there's a lot of nighttime activity. And then we kind of back off a little bit of it, depending on the street activity, like Collector Street and then your local streets. So a lot of that's been kind of the tradition in roadway lighting for 50 years in this country. And you can see the slide on the bottom, when you have no lighting, you're basically, dependent on your headlights. Whereas when you have some lighting, then it opens up that peripheral, which I was talking about earlier. The quality of lighting is on the left, you have the uniform. So that's the cycle of light, dark that you see a lot of times. When you only do spot lighting, you get a big cycle. And the one thing about humans, we're very good at looking at shiny things. But our adaptation, when we go from a light to a dark area, it takes a while for our eyes to adjust. And if you think you're going dark, light, dark, that's not what you would call good quality lighting when you're driving in a vehicle or on a bicycle. Now, you can handle it when you're walking, but you don't have that adaptation period when you're driving. So that's why really on high-speed facilities and arterials, you want a nice uniform light so you can drive through those areas and not lose your adaptation. The I-10 deck tunnel is a great example of when you see, sometimes you'll go in there and if the lighting's not at the right level, it's like you hit a wall of darkness as you drive into it. Just to illustrate that light dark cycle, and we use a mathematical, what we call uniformity. And there's two types of sciences that are applied to lighting design. There's illuminance and there's luminance. I prefer illuminance because that's the old way. And the luminance is kind of the old new way. But illuminance is just a unit density of light on a surface. It's not something that you see. It's something you can measure easily and you can calculate, but it's not something you see. Luminance is what you see. It's a model, okay, it's reflecting back and I'm seeing that brightness. But typically in lighting design, we prefer to use illuminance because you can measure it and it makes more sense to a lot of designers. And usually on a residential street where we use 6:1, and then the collector streets, arterial streets, we use the 3:1, and that means it's really light. In Guadalupe, we're actually using 3:1 in our residential streets because we're using, again, talking about that security lighting. So you're looking at being able to see into these areas very well, but not at a high intensity. At a good uniformity, you don't need that much intensity. You go out on a full moon night, and if you don't have any other light source around you, you can see, you can almost read. That's a very, very low intensity. The other thing that street lighting is good about, well, we have bad street lighting when you can see the source. So when you see your source and it's in your field of view, that has a tendency to cause you what they call disability glare, and that interferes with your ability to see. Headlight glare is a real big issue on our arterials. especially on the big 5-lane sections, or if we don't have medians in the middle, we did, you know, it's like if a pedestrian's crossing, they get swallowed in that headlight glare. And I think that's, we did a study, I did a study for ADOT back 10 years ago in Sedona, and that's what was happening. They were getting swallowed by the headlight, and the people would think that the driver saw them, and they would go out in front of the car and run over and killed. So that's why street lighting on our arterials is really important, because it allows, again, the driver to see better and adapt to the glare of the headlight glare. This is an extreme area where you have that pedestrian interaction with vehicles, and it's very chaotic. And at the airport, you know, you have good lighting to help people sort it all out. So this is, of course, not what you typically have on a street, but, you know, sometimes, especially in downtown Phoenix, when we have sporting events and conventions, there's a lot of pedestrians walking all over the place. Not a lot of times, not at the crossings. So see and be seen. So let's get more on the quantitative data, and this is really new in traffic safety, and something that I think we've been adapting to since 2010 when the Highway Safety Manual was produced, and that is what you have: nominal safety when you're just following a guideline or a prescriptive something, and then you have substance safety, and that's what I would call performance safety. That's when you have actually research that says what you're going to do is going to reduce crashes or prevent crashes. So I think that's a good context to think about when you're talking about street lighting. It's a Benjamin Franklin, you know, a little ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure kind of thing. It's also, when we're looking at contributing crashes, this was a landmark study that was done by the University of Indiana in 1976, believe it or not. It looks at the interaction between the humans, the roadway, and the vehicle. And that's really where I think we need to concentrate, is that interface between the human and our roads. And that's where street lighting comes in. It's helping the driver, pedestrians, see better. When they can see better, you know, our hope is still up to the individual to take advantage of that, but we hope that they'll drive safer and drive more prudently. Now, it doesn't, you know, protect us against bad behaviors, and that's really where I think the elegance and the safe system approach is. This is the NHTSA version, the FHWA has their version, but really this is the way I think we need to look at roadway safety, and it's in the Vision Zero plan, not this graphic, but it really says we're distributing the responsibility around, you know, with the driver. You know, like someone running into a school, I mean, that's pretty bad behavior right there. So that's that responsibility of that driver. So I think this is a great context for us to debate and discuss on what we're doing, not only on street lighting, but on this whole thing with your committee you're doing. In fact, you should have a pledge at the beginning of your meeting. We believe in the safe system approach. So, I'm sorry, another bad joke. Okay. So this is a great, and I can hardly say it's systemic safety improvement. I said it right. I can't spell it because I'm an engineer, but it's about prevention, and it's about, you know, not looking for the fatal crash where it's happened, which is a tragedy. But knowing that that fatal crash should happen here, it's probably not going to happen here again. It's going to happen over there where it hasn't happened yet. And that's the, you know, that's the dartboard of crashes. So the idea that what FHWA is putting behind this is that you just look at severity, and that's where you concentrate, regardless of where that location is. Typically, it's a system problem. So that's why street lighting is kind of like the atomic bomb of safety, putting it on all these streets, because, you know, nighttime is not a safe time for pedestrians. Another one, this is some good information that I would suggest everybody kind of follow up on it, is the 28 countermeasures in 5 different categories that FHWA has on their website. And if you notice on my presentation, I have QR codes. I don't know what a QR code is. So you use your phone, and then it takes you to that website. So I'm, again, another bad joke there. But I'm historic, so that's, I think that makes it more fun for people when your presentation to say, hey, what is he talking about? You know, here's where you can get some more information. So one of the recommendations I would make to this committee is get your nose in these countermeasures and look at them. They're really easy. And there's a couple that relate to lighting. Oh, do you need that back?
No, it's too far away, it won't pick it up.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I was just curious, I was just trying.
But what's great about, what I like about this is it doesn't, you know, an engineer, I love details, I love books, I like to read a lot. You know, in fact, my handout I gave you, this was very difficult. Summing up in one page is a challenge for me, but I have people that help me with that. But this one on lighting and crosswalk visibility enhancement, and I think this is a good interface between the technical people and people that are not maybe as technical as us to explain and say, okay, here's these principles, and here's what the potential benefits are to our citizens on our streets. And I mentioned earlier that FHWA is focusing on nighttime visibility for safety, and they have what they call the everyday counts. And they do this every couple of years where they emphasize certain things on safety, and improving nighttime visibility is one of them that they're promoting right now. And there's another, they have some more information at FHWA. If you get on their website, you'll get lost if you're really into this stuff and looking at all the different information they have on their website. And really kind of wrapping it up here a little bit with the quantitative, or I mean with the performance safety. The FHWA has what they call the crash modification factor clearinghouse. You remember I mentioned regression analysis for safety. So these are the regression factors that you use to evaluate what your countermeasure might do in terms of safety when you monetize injury and fatal crashes. So that cost benefit you hear about. So this is some of the stuff that ADOT uses, MAG uses, City of Phoenix uses when you're trying to say, okay, where's my best safety for my buck? So these are all the different crash modification factors that apply to illumination. The couple in the middle, which I think is really interesting, is improving street illuminance and uniformities. You remember I talked about, it's not necessarily the level, it's that uniform. And I think that's where our industry could improve, and some of the infrastructure that we have out there that's fairly dated. In fact, in the old days when SRP and APS used to provide street lighting for the city, before the city bought it. And I think, Tom, you were around when the city bought the lighting systems for $1, I think it was, SRP and the APS sold us.
I might have been more than that.
There might have been a few more dollars. But anyway, what the utility approach to it was more what they called half code lighting. So they would space the lights out based on their power points, not necessarily on a performance criteria. So that's something to look into in improving things. And with that, discussion of questions. What?
You don't need to, I got one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Well, shout out for Melissa, come on.
It's okay, it'll be brief.
I lost yours, lost.
Wow. So that learned a lot there.
Oh, thank you.
It was fascinating. Those purple lights are gonna live in my head rent free.
Yeah, it was always, that's enlightening, so to speak.
Okay, so I'm just gonna very briefly talk about what the city of Phoenix and specifically pedestrian safety is doing in terms of street lighting projects. It's gonna be pretty brief. I'm just gonna start off here. Maybe.
Not technology.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Throw it at it.
I'm gonna try it again.
Oh, okay. So since pedestrian safety has existed, these are some projects that are finished that were funded with pedestrian safety funding. Some locations that were on the high injury network as identified risk locations. So these are some segments, systematic look. And like Seth pointed out, again, we are really focused, especially with this road safety action plan and Vision Zero, on looking at a safe systems approach. So larger infrastructure projects that can completely change the context or road geometry of a street are really expensive, and they take time and years of planning, of scoping, of design, and of construction. That's a little bit beyond what we do in pedestrian safety, because we're looking for quicker implementation. Again, our projects still take quite a bit of time, but we're looking at a year or two rather than 5 to 10 years for some larger roadway projects. So street lighting is a way that we can start to tackle that safe systems approach through a systematic way. These are some projects we have actively in design, and then on the right there, you can't really see the title, but it just says these two maps here are locations that have been funded by an HSIP grant, which is a federal grant that we applied for. So it's a systematic approach, and it evaluates based on the data that he had mentioned with the countermeasures. You take that into consideration, what the countermeasure would be street lighting in this instant, how many crashes and what the benefit would be in terms of financial and reduction in crashes. So we've got a citywide HSIP street lighting project, and that is currently in design. And then just to touch base, this is the only picture I have on my slides. I said I should take some pointers from you. So like he had mentioned, we finished the replacement and conversion from HPS luminaires in 2018 and replaced them with LEDs, but that was for standard. And so we're currently having a 5-year program to replace some of the non-standard luminaires, like the decorative acorn, colonial, and other non-standard streetlights. Something else that we have in a safety initiative, all of our traffic signal projects, so the modernizations, replacements, and new signals, as well as our hawks, all have streetlights at them, and not just at a vehicle perspective, but at a lower height for pedestrian and bicyclist perspective, so that it provides lighting for them as well. And a very hot topic right now and popular part of our initiatives, we have the light rail corridor street lighting, so ensuring that the locations in our transit-oriented development and light rail are able to get to and from public transit. And then we also have a program where we take in resident requests that we review, investigate, and make recommendations for. Sometimes it moves into projects. I believe we only have one person who's in charge of that right now, so there's quite a bit of a backlog, but it is a program that we are actively working on, and we take requests regularly. And then, as Seth had shown, our guidelines for streetlights were just updated in July of 2023, and we do anticipate some minor amendments by the end of this year. And now, discussion.
Okay, we're doing the best. Abigail.
Yeah, I wanted to bring to attention that when PD was here, we talked about lighting, and we saw a of the form they fill out during the collision, and there was nothing on lighting. There was no correlation of lighting and Phoenix driver incidents with pedestrians in crosswalks. There are, one second, I have a bunch of notes.
You know what she's talking about, the form, it's like
Yeah.
the checkbox, you know.
Do you guys remember that?
I do.
When I requested that information? And streets didn't have that data. There was no data correlating lighting and pedestrian incidents with vehicles on the road. And pedestrians are using crosswalks, well-lit crosswalks, and are still being hit at night. And there's still not that correlation between lighting and increasing collisions. And we've talked about lighting multiple times in this, on this committee, and we've heard a lot about it. And one thing that has been proven to work is, we've talked about it already, the leading pedestrian intervals. We've been asking for that for a year, and we've seen lighting several times. And also to bring up, how will lighting change the driver behavior? Lighting does not change driver behavior. It's the street design that changed that. So does lighting actually change the driver behavior? Do you have data showing that information?
Yes, and your assertion that it doesn't make a difference is not correct. So there's lots of studies. We did a before and after study, a 5-year before and a 5-year after study up in Kayenta for ADOT on a street lighting system up on the nation. And before that, there were people getting killed, cows getting killed, dogs getting killed, cats getting killed. In the 5 years after, there was nobody getting killed. So, and it's not a matter of influencing driver behavior, it's about driver performance. In traffic engineering, we have something called the 85th percentile. So 85% of the drivers are fairly reasonable. The other 15% jump ball. Maybe the 5% are just, either impaired or drug, distracted, disabled. So there's a concept we call the 6D driver. And so it's very difficult. That's why I showed the slide about that interaction between human and the roadway. That 27%, that's where we need to make our infrastructure better for drivers to have the opportunity to drive safer.
Well, it's proven there's so many researches out there, and we've had meetings where we've discussed this.
Yeah.
We're changing the design of the road, adding in bike lanes. The Osborne School, for example, you said the collisions there haven't been collisions since the bike lanes were added, and that decreases the road width, and the decrease in road width makes the driver slow down because they have more they have to be paying attention to. That has been proven. There is correlations between decrease in road width and adding in bike lanes, but there wasn't data in correlation between lighting and pedestrian and road fatalities.
And I don't mean, well, we'll argue because I believe in good. We won't call it an argument, we'll call it a meaningful debate. So data is data. And have you read the highway safety manual?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
So that's what the crash modification factors are all about. Is you look at these models that are set up for the different roads and you look at your countermeasures and you plug that in and you try to quantify the safety benefit that you're getting from that countermeasure. So that's what roadway lighting has proven. There's lots of studies out there. Now, sometimes not all the studies are showing a benefit, but the majority of the studies show a benefit of roadway lighting.
So the highway manual is telling you that?
Mm-hmm.
That roadway?
Well, there's a meta-analysis that's been done by Redlich. He's from Norway. He's a researcher that does meta-analysis. And so the meta-analysis, it's called the Highway Safety Manual on countermeasures. I could give you a whole presentation on it. It's a book about this big with all different sorts of things about what you can do for highway safety. And he did a meta-analysis on all the different lighting studies and shows that it has a benefit in safety.
Well, that is highways, you're talking about.
Streets, highways, roadways are all the
Well,
same.
that's very different. Highway speeds are way different than roadway speeds. You should not be going highway speeds on roadways. That's what creates collisions, like into schools, killing pedestrians. Highway speeds are way higher than roadway speeds. And we shouldn't be using highway manuals to be dictating how we build our roads.
I don't think you said that.
He said he uses the highway manual.
I think it's called the manual, but it's roads, highway. Didn't you say that, Eric? Didn't you say that, Seth? Roads?
So to take a step back, first of all, I'm a professional engineer. And one of the things that professional engineers do is we apply sciences based on research. The National Academy of Sciences, you know when that was formed? 1864 by Abraham Lincoln. Part of it is the science, it's a different academies. There's the one for medicine, there's one for engineering, there's one for science. There's the Transportation Research Board, which is a part of the National Academies. And every year they do lots and lots of research about how me, as an applied scientist, I'm not a scientist. I'm an engineer. I've been doing this for 40 years. I use judgment. I use quantitative analysis to come up with things that I think and know by this research that allows me to make good decisions based on how design should be done.
Right.
I can tell you without a doubt that roadway lighting, and I'm not trying to convince you, You know, I'm just saying where I'm coming from is, you know, I respect your opinions.
Oh, they're not opinions, they're facts.
Oh.
I know they're not opinions.
Is that roadway lighting makes your streets safer. If it's well designed and it's maintained, it will make streets safer.
We had no correlation, no evidence from the streets saying
You need to look at more studies.
the streets didn't have that data.
I'll be up there soon.
We're not traffic engineers, and we do know this. We know about roadway design. You said that there was no correlation between roadway design and safety. I know that Julian raised his hand.
Can I ask for something?
Sorry, Julian, did you wish to speak? I saw a little hand up on the.
Yeah, I did. Thank you for the presentation and the data. I was wondering if you, and then to my also to was Abby asking those questions? Thank you for those amazing questions. Can you are you able to share more of the not the presentation, but the data collected that correlates to your findings? That way, we're not just hearing it from you, but also looking at the data. Maybe not necessarily in this meeting, but Laura could send that information to us if you provide it to Laura.
I believe he's referring to studies done by many multinational corporations, not data he has collected personally. I don't think you have handfuls of data sitting around.
No, again, you know, as an applied scientist, I rely on other research and research papers. And I did a paper, and I was thinking of updating that paper for this committee. I just didn't have time to get to it. But in 2003, when ADOT was looking at reducing roadway lighting, I wrote a paper, The Value of Roadway Lighting, and it included a lot of the quantitative information that shows that it does have a safety benefit. Especially, you know, when we talk about highways, we talk about arterials and the freeways, especially when we have lane changing on freeways. It really helps people drive safer when they're late, when they're changing lanes.
Not arterial.
Am I clear that you are arguing against having lighting in Abigail? I mean, it sounds like you do not want street lighting.
Yeah, that is putting words in my mouth.
I'm trying to figure out what you're.
I'm making this clear. There's no correlation between increasing the pedestrian safety in crosswalks and on the streets with lighting. There was no data. The streets didn't have that data. They did not share that data with the last meeting when I asked for it. The police department doesn't even log it into their form when they take details on what happened. There was no correlation. That's what I'm saying. Not.
And I can say that you're incorrect in your assertion in terms of its benefit for safety.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're arguing a point that doesn't need to be argued, except what she's saying is we don't have the data in Phoenix. They didn't even have it on the list. I think that's all she's saying. I think what you're saying is accurate as well. I have no reason to think it isn't. Studies show it is. But I think what I'm hearing from Abby is Abby can't say that in Phoenix because they don't even have it on the checklist saying that this accident was created because of the lack of lighting. That's what I think she's saying. So I don't think you're as far off as you think. Oh, we have, you say it's science. Well, it ought to be science in the city of Phoenix on the accident report form so we can determine whether it was a contributing cause.
Yeah, I'm surprised at it because I know that in the past it was an item on the accident report form. So I did not look at the one that they had today, but in past years, it was an item because they would indicate whether there was lighting still present or not.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what.
Seth, have you seen that? Have you seen that? Have you seen that checklist?
So
There must be 90 boxes on it.
Yeah, so.
And
So when we receive the reports of collisions that happen, they do make note of whether or not, what the lighting condition was and whether or not there's streetlights present. I don't know how it's aggregated in terms of the police who have that data originally, but we receive all of the serious injury and fatal crashes within traffic services. We receive those and they all have a note of whether or not there are streetlights present.
Interesting, just because that story changed from the last meeting when I asked. police department said they did not have that on their form. They did not take that data, and streets told us that they did not have that data. Reed told us that Reed was also there. I was asking the questions to him. He said there was no correlation. They did not have that data.
So Chair and members of the committee, if I may, having some experience with this, and I know the American Academy of Sciences and Transportation's first research board was mentioned, who has come up with an alternative means of developing speed, which is deviates from the 85 percentile. I don't know lighting here as much as this gentleman does. I never will. I learned a lot tonight. But there are circumstances where lighting doesn't help safety, and that's been proved, and maybe not here, but I had an experience where we had lights to highway and crashes went up and we took the lights out. So to the committee member's point, it really depends on the situation. Highways are very different than roadways, and the appropriate analysis and NACTO also has another way of analyzing. So those are all things that we're going to look at. But to make the statement that it's unsafe or that it's not changing safety, I don't think we can say that. Not having the lights in would be just as safe. So we have a lot of light requests. We have a lot that we have to do with lighting, and a lot that we have to provide data for in the future.
Chair? Just one comment and then a question that's going to kind of take us in a bit of a different direction perhaps than you mentioned Kayenta. Believe it or not, I used to live just outside Kayenta, familiar with that road. It is very different, very, very different. I used to live in the Navajo Nation, very different than here where I live now in Phoenix. Issues are very different. I think that situations are kind of apples and pinyon nuts. And so that's also my attempt on a joke. Yeah, I don't know. Barely didn't land, but that's okay. Yesterday I went to the, I went to the Bike to Work Day, and Streets had a couple of really great booths there. And one of which, I said, hey, take this. And, we had $100 to allocate towards different, safety items. Where do we allocate them? That's kind of what we have to do here as a committee and what we have to do as a city. And, I've been told time and time again, every meeting, things are limited, funding's limited. And so I really appreciate, committee member Pilgich trying to figure out and having a really respectful and wonderful debate. What is the best way? Where's the best way to focus our energy and our limited resources? And I agree that with limited resources, having things that have worked in terms of implementing bike lanes. And, I went onto the site that you sent, that you had here, the QR code, it said, first thing that popped up is converting traditional or flush buffered bicycle lanes to a separated bicycle lane with a delineator post reduces crashes up to 53%. Like, heck yeah, let's do more of that. And so, when we're living in a world, we have limited resources. We've got to do what works for us as a city of Phoenix. And so I really appreciate the comments and the lively debate. I'm really going to miss our student members, and I'm really bummed that they're not going to be with us here shortly, because these are the streets. The streets that are being designed today are the ones that you guys are going to use a lot longer than we are. So my question, though, that's just a comment. My question is about, you mentioned some of the historical part about street lighting and posts and things like that. In my area, the light posts are oftentimes smack in the middle of the sidewalk, and it really inhibits, it really hurts safety, which is counterintuitive. I assume they were put there probably with the safety, at least intention, but they really hurt safety. And I can give you a ton of examples, we probably all can, where there's a light pole, sometimes really thick wood one, right in the smack middle of the sidewalk, where it makes it completely impossible for someone in a wheelchair to get across. It makes it completely impossible for me, when my kids were younger, pushing in a stroller to get around, and you have to go in the street, and that's extremely unsafe. What is the city policies in terms of, one, any new lighting that's coming in? Can we keep it out of the sidewalks? What's the policy on that? should we be looking at updating those policies? And then two, what's the policies or maybe plans, if I can be so bold, to remove those impediments from our sidewalks as they currently are?
So, Vice Chair Hermes and committee members, in terms of the policy today, what you're describing is in a lot of our older areas where we have utility poles, streetlight poles, sometimes utility infrastructure that's in the way of sidewalks. That is not something that we would allow today in 2024 and for quite some time. So if we were going in and adding street lighting, we would make sure that we were purchasing the appropriate right-of-way. Now, there are areas of the city, unfortunately, where you might have houses that back up to the sidewalk. And so in those areas, we just wouldn't be able to put in that lighting, right? Because then we would have to place it directly. We'd be purchasing people's backyards, right? And so that would not be appropriate as well. So there are certain circumstances where we would like to add lighting and just aren't able to. In terms of existing impediments, there's not necessarily a dedicated funding source to removing those. They are usually pretty costly, right? And there's lots of areas in the older parts of the city where they exist. So I wouldn't say that there's a dedicated funding source, but we do look at opportunities when they are available, when we're coming through with some other type of a project or development is occurring, that we can correct some of those deficiencies.
Thank you, Brianna. Yeah. Any other, Catherine, I believe you had a question or comment.
First off, thank you guys for making my first meeting so exciting.
This is calm.
Yeah, great. So I'll keep coming back, I promise.
Put his helmet on.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the helmet to come on. I did see on one of the areas was 32nd and Thomas and 36. So I'm a huge advocate for anything better in that area as safety and as a whole, because I actually live off of Thomas and 37th, and I pray every single day that I won't get hit because one, lack of street lighting, two, the section between 38th and 36th across the street from the Home Depot and that Walgreens, it's just, you know, some of it is the population, which we can't control because there are, you know, people there that will just randomly walk across the street in the middle. Yeah, drivers. So you know, coming from downtown during rush hour, there's no actual median, there's no signage, there's no crosswalk, there's nothing. Somebody wants to take a left out of the Home Depot parking lot. I want to take a left into 37th Street. Someone wants to take a left or a right out. I think I get, you know, there is 5 different ways that somebody can get hit in that area. So if I may, you know, heavily press looking at that area from 32nd to 36 as somebody who lives there and seeing all of the rush hour from morning and afternoon and a lot of the pedestrians just randomly walking across the way, that being a you know, focus in what we can do from Phoenix's standpoint and lighting and crossing and all the things we've spoken about today. It's very bad there. So yeah, and also lighting is great. I don't think any lighting is ever bad anywhere. So in summation, thank you.
Any more?
Yeah, I just had a comment on the street lighting. I saw there was a lot with the light rail, the street lighting on the light rail. Is there any plans to work with planning department possibly to see when developments come in, if we can work with them to make sure the developer comes in and maybe assist in putting some streetlights? That's a great way we can relieve costs from the city, but also improving the developer, but also the community.
So that is something that is already evaluated by our planning department when we are reviewing developers' site plans.
And you did scribbling notes there furiously. Do you have something else to comment on?
No, that's just, these are future agenda.
Oh, okay.
Keep an eye out for those.
All righty. Does anyone else on the committee have a comment? If not, I'd like to get to the citizen committee because we have some citizen comments. We have 4 people that's signed up to speak. First on my list would be Stacy Champion. And let me make one comment, Stacy, before you start. The reason I try to keep people focused on the agenda item we're on while we're at public comment is because we do have a comment period at the end for any public discussion on any item.
Whoa, that's very noisy. Sorry, I've attended numerous public meetings over many years, so I appreciate that. I will be looking forward to Ed being chair, so I don't get mansplained on a regular basis, but
I was not.
That's another thing.
I was not speaking.
Thank you. Why do pedestrians die when they are hit? They die because of speed, right? They die because of speed. And so while lighting, sure, like lighting can be good, right? So you can see that cow and not hit it down the road or a person down the road. It's not going to fix the problem. Chokers, narrowing lanes, trees, protected bike lanes, diagonal diverters, median barriers. Those are all things that slow speeds. To the lighting standpoint, and when we're thinking about over and over in these meetings, we hear about budgetary constraints. We don't have the funding. We kind of, like lighting has been brought up, as Ed pointed out, numerous times. And there's not really a lot of discussion on low-hanging fruit, like the fact that our crosswalks are embarrassing. They are scrawny. They're not brightly painted. You can sit at any intersection across this city and watch car after car roll them. I have personally been almost hit in numerous crosswalks as a pedestrian on my bike. It is very, very common. I mean, they're literally this wide, it seems like, and it's two barely faded lines of white paint. And as somebody who travels a lot, I see really good crosswalks in other cities. And that crosswalk, with or without lighting, makes it visible to a driver. Like that seems like a really easy, low-hanging fruit, no-brainer thing. Understaffed, no funding. Like honestly, like if you guys want to buy me a bunch of paint, I will seriously find 100 volunteers and go paint proper crosswalks all over the city on every weekend. I mean, it's like, I don't understand why we're not focusing on, this is the Vision Zero committee. It is about preventing deaths. So why aren't we focusing on low-hanging fruit things to keep people in the city alive? Thank you.
Thank you very
I
much.
like your bell.
The next person we had signed up was Julie Taggart, and she will be
She's online.
online.
We unmute her.
We're getting you unmuted, Julie.
I'm trying. Go ahead and go on to Beatrice and I'll unmute Julie.
Okay, next. Next would be Beatrice Jensen.
Beatrice Johnson.
I'm sorry, Beatrice.
It's okay.
That's the fifth one.
Okay. They're calling her.
No, she's in.
I wrote it this time, so okay. I wanted to say, who are the contractors the city is contracting for street lights and safety improvements? Is the city contracts to contractors who are about the children and the human beings called citizens in the city of Phoenix? As it is stated, always follow the money. I saw in studying that there's a practice of many excuses from contractors. Are the contractors contractors? Or are they somebody's cousin or somebody relative? Because there's a pattern of work. I've studied this that's supposed to be done that's not getting done. And if you can go in and ask the city for a extension after 3 years for 4 lights and you've got none of them up, that's a problem. But I also wanted to say this is what someone was saying about, here we go. Okay, let me go right here. Okay, the city of Phoenix, I was gonna say, our 32nd Street in Yale, those lights were only fixed only after Dorothy and Joseph were killed, was a city contract to 2 lives. The City of Phoenix lighting project and pedestrian safety sounds good, but will it ever get done? How many more lives will be lost? I say it starts in other city entities such as the city prosecutor's office, Maricopa County, to charge every Phoenix citizen who kills by vehicle homicide, not just black and brown violators. The killer of my sister and Joseph flunked the sobriety test, was doing 50 to 60 miles 5 minutes before he killed in a 40-mile zone. He was able to drive off with their guts on his front 1,500 round grill. He has been afforded protection from the city of Phoenix County Police Department because he is protected by white privilege, which is a big state, it's big in Arizona, when by vehicle homicide. I agree wholeheartedly that Phoenix safety problem is directly linked to the unchecked behavior of reckless drivers who are not held accountable for their reckless driving. You can put up all the lights, bike lanes, or whatever else, it may help, but until all drivers are held accountable equally, you're gonna continue to have this problem.
Thank you.
Julia's unmuted now.
Now we have Julia unmuted on online.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hi. So my name's Julia. I don't know, Carl, if you remember me. We met a couple months ago with Michael Vellotti about East Hatcher Road. I have like Rapunzel-like hair. That's how people remember me. So I have been attending this meeting because I live on East Hatcher Road, 13th Street and East Hatcher Road to be exact. And we have such bad excessive speeding. We've had, I want to say
Julia,
at
can I
least.
stop you for 1 minute?
Yes,
Are you using a telephone or a computer?
a telephone.
Okay, you seem to be fading a little bit in and out, and I don't know if that's just the connection or not, but.
Better? Is it better?
Yes. Yes, that's
Can you-
better.
Okay, so I live on East Hatcher Road. I did a speed hump petition to try and get speed humps on my road. In the summer heat and 110-degree weather going up and down my street talking with my neighbors, I got all the signatures. We couldn't have a speed hump because of drainage. That was the issue I was told. There needs to be another solution besides just speed humps because we have such bad excessive speeding of people speed racing. I think you call it drag racing. And they go up and down the street every single night going 65 miles an hour. I kid you not. I remember one morning someone stole a motorcycle, crashed into the front of my neighbor's house. He was going 65. We had SWAT come at probably 3 in the morning and they didn't leave till 7. One house down off of 12th and Cave Creek has been driven through at least twice because people will drag race all the way down. I've had other block watches complain to me about the speeding. I know we can only get one speed hump on 14th Street, but 12th and 13th Street are the big issues.
Excuse me, Chairman, we need to stay to the agenda of street lighting. Thank you.
Well, that's the whole agenda is I know that you guys don't have anything like that and then gain a hawk. I tried to get a hawk for it. I tried to get a crosswalk and we didn't meet the criteria. And then 12th and Cave Creek have the same issue, or Cave Creek and Peoria has the same issue where they have excessive speeding where people have been hit and there's no solution for them either. They qualified for a hawk, but that could take 10 years and they've had at least 5 deaths over in that area where Motorcycle Shop has had his cars run through him multiple times. And I understand the funding issue where I think you can only have 2 hawks funded a year, but there needs to be other solutions for speeding. I mean, there's kids in this area that don't want to walk to the park or don't want to walk to school because they're afraid of getting hit. I mean, a dog was killed, a man got hit with a car. It's so bad. And I've talked with the city of Cave Creek to see if they have any solutions. They don't have any solutions. I mean, I would really love to see some sort of solution come to fruition instead of being told every single time there's nothing we can do.
Julia, can I ask you to kind of wrap up your discussion?
Yes. I would love to see some sort of solution because every single time all I get told is there's nothing we can do. And then somebody else dies. And I know Michael Vellotti and Carl have tried and I appreciate them so much. And I know you guys are trying, but we need to have a better solution because we're going to be the 4th largest city in the country. And all we have are speed humps and hawks that you wait 10 years to get. Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time to call in. Next I have Nicole Rodriguez.
How many minutes? 'Cause I don't see a timer. What's that? 2 minutes. Okay. I'm not an engineer, but I do have a lot of experience in lighting. If you recall back in 2016, council voted unanimously for 2700 Kelvin. I helped lead that campaign with Urban Phoenix Project. We were successful in getting everyone on board. And we actually had lighting experts, we had nurses, we had everyone that you could think of was part of that campaign. And at the time it was Ray Dovalina. I remember very well for the streets director and parks. And one of the consistent things that we talked about was glare. And I saw that you did have glare in there, but also were peer-reviewed studies. That was huge. And by the way, I did get an award for this type of effort that we made. I invested so much of my time. That's why this is my daughter here. She knows it very well. And we're not talking about highways, we're talking about streets. So when I want to talk about lighting real quick, there's a number of things. Let's look at Paradise Valley. If we want to look at anecdotal evidence, Paradise Valley has very few street lightings. Paradise Valley has very low incident rates. I say incidents, not accidents. They have very low incident rates in collisions. And we also know that the big problem really is with glare is on buildings. And we need our street lights to actually be appropriately directed. We look at those slides, which are very good slides that he showed of images of our street lights shining into people's backyards. And that was a big issue that we had also back in 2016. Most of that lighting was inappropriately directed because we have too tall of street lights. If we want to believe that they actually could do a job, let's get them right on the streets and out of people's backyards. Because also it's been debunked that it actually doesn't lead to safety. It gives the perception of safety. And that is a fact. Here's something too, we're causing this to be where we're burning all of our calories when we do know we have proven methods. We've heard a lot of them here today, and it's such a waste of time to be talking about lighting again when we've been asking for LBIs for the longest time, and I don't need NAU study because there's already studies out there that are peer reviewed. No more studies. We just need to get the right things on and get acting. And for funding, we're always broke. I know why, because we're sprawling out. The parts of the city that bring in the most funding are South Phoenix, West Phoenix, Central, Downtown. And we know that South and West Phoenix gets very little of this type of safety methods or improvements in their areas. We do have funding. We need to stop subsidizing sprawl.
Thank you, Nicole. And I would add one thing to your comment on Paradise Valley, as someone who has driven through it for most of my life. No, I know. My comment would be, they also have photo rate enforcement.
Is there a correlation with that?
No, I'm commenting on that because every major street in Paradise Valley has photo radar enforcement on it. And you know that it is there and you slow down. And that's my.
And it hasn't worked in South Phoenix, photo radar.
Next we have, let's see, I'm sorry.
This one, Annie.
Annie Eldon. Annie is present here.
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Annie Eldon. I am the president of Phoenix Spokespeople, an advocacy group that tries to make streets safer around here. I'm also a member of Chispa, Arizona, and I'm a very concerned resident. I'll make my speech pretty short about this. I just feel like, I personally believe that lighting is wonderful. I feel much safer when I'm walking down the street and there's lights there. So yes, we definitely need lighting. However, to make streets safer as far as driving and pedestrian crashes between drivers and pedestrians, or bicycles, or people in wheelchairs, or even between people driving toward each other, both are in cars. Since we have a budget, let's use that budget on things that really work. Since lighting is not like the true, does not work as well as some of these other options, such as narrowing the streets, adding protected bike lanes, adding more trees, things like that. That would just make it much safer and to probably have a much higher rate of saving people's lives. So let's just use budget more for things that work a lot better. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. That's the last person I had that requested to speak on this item. So with that, let's see, I've forgotten where we are on the agenda now. I've forgotten my agenda. Where is my agenda? We are now at,
We skipped over future items, I think.
future items. Yeah, no, I haven't gone anywhere. I was gonna say, next item is request for future agenda items. Anyone? Ed, you've got a list, send it to yourself.
Yeah. I got a few, I'll start out with one, because it was kind of mentioned earlier. Would love to have future agenda item on neighborhood speed mitigation opportunities and options. What are the options? How do neighborhoods and people access those? We have, we heard some anecdotal things here and there in past meetings about speed humps and speed hump programs. What other options are there? And what other options should there be? Should we be looking at other opportunities and options? And how do neighborhoods and communities access those? And how might we make those access points a little easier for people and more equitable? Try to put that on the agenda. That's really long, but hopefully I explained it so you can kind of go see where I'm kind of going with that. Also, would love to see on the agenda an operation slowdown. That's what I'm calling it. You've seen other cities do this with their Vision Zero committees, is do a public and a public facing enforcement campaign, in coordination with police, and to focus on slowing drivers down and enforcement and education through that. You get good media on that, on what we're trying to do here at Vision Zero. City of Tempe just did it.
I did.
And they're tiny. No offense to Seth, you live in Tempe, but we're bigger than Tempe. We should be doing this, and we have more problems than Tempe. We should be doing this. We don't need to wait, but we can do it sooner. But I think absolutely we should do it in addition to when schools come back, kind of an operation slowdown, operation, there's probably some names we can rip off what other cities have done. But when school comes back in August, we've got plenty of time to plan and execute from that point so that people know when school's back in, hey, if you're driving recklessly, you're gonna get pulled over. If you're running red lights, you're gonna get pulled over. There will be consequences. We've got to go back to that. That E of enforcement is important. So kind of planning and executing, and I'll just call it Operation Slowdown, something that's really public facing there. Also, I'd love to put on the agenda, looking at changing our bylaws to, as it relates to our student members. I don't think this committee can change our own bylaws, but we can make recommendations. We're an advisory committee. We can advise the people who do make the bylaws to change the student position from a 1-year position to a 2-year position. We're just getting started over here. I mean, I've seen our young people really, grow over 1 year so short. And also elevated to a voting position. I sat on the board of regents for 2 years as a student member. I had a vote on things like tuition and actually impacting policy. This is a advisory committee. Certainly, students should be able to have a vote on advisory committee. And I think a 2-year term just makes a lot more sense than a 1-year term. That would necessitate a bylaw change, I know. Another thing for the agenda, it was mentioned earlier, $10 million for funding for Vision Zero Go Safety Action Plan. Just kind of maybe information, where are we at with that? And maybe in discussion, maybe a vote, how can we help get involved as a committee to allocate that? We talk a lot about allocating scarce resources. We want to be involved in that. Next is crosswalk design. What are the policies on crosswalk design? How can we make them better? I'll tell you a very quick story about that. Outside my office on where it used to be on Van Buren and 3rd, really cool crosswalk went in, very visible, very like what you might see in another city. It was cool. And I looked at it every day from my office on the 20th floor. It was there for 3 days. It got taken out this got scraped and got put in these two lines, two kind of rinky-dink lines. I have no idea what happened there, but I can tell you it's not funding related, it's design and policy related. So paint isn't funding related. This is a policy decision. I think this is an appropriate place to kind of look at that, how we can make those policy and design changes to make it safer. Last thing is pedestrian leading intervals. Would love to see that. I have to bring it up every time because every time I try to cross the street and, outside of a few very limited situations where there is pedestrian leading intervals, most of them we don't have it. And the car and I were in competition, trying to get out there and establish ourselves in the intersection. And I will tell you, I've been hit by a car a few times. I have lost every battle when I go in the intersection at the same time, when I get the light and the car gets the light. It's not a good situation. So love to see that on the agenda. I'd love to see not to wait on that.
All right, any other items for a future agenda?
Yeah, this is more like a transparency, is if we could look at possibly getting a more Vision Zero dashboard. I was looking at other cities and they have like the deaths, they have where the funding's going, very easy, user friendly. It'd be great to see if we can look into maybe other cities and how we could do our own. My second request for an agenda item is I remember it was the ASU, their master program I was sitting in, they were talking about, they went to all the elementary schools and the kids were like reporting what they wanted to see in their community. It was the sweetest things, but the saddest one was they didn't feel safe walking in their own schools, similar to the safe routes to school. And it was just heartbreaking to just see that kids can see this and they just want to be able to walk, some people, but they want to walk to their friend's house, but they don't feel safe doing so. Where I'm getting at is we have ASU, they're number one in innovation, they're right across the street. Is it possible we can request them to come to a Vision Zero and maybe help us with some the College of Public Health across the street, but they also have the urban and regional planning that we can also reach out to. Maybe we can get different perspectives on how we can make some solutions and innovation. Thank you.
Yes,
I know you mentioned this, Joe Brown, the age limits on the electric bicycles. I don't know if there's much to talk about since it's not really a law due to the violation of open meeting law. But since you mentioned talking about it, we could even talk about reducing the 16 age. I know it's kind of a stretch. We need to focus on getting the 18 out of there because Ed brought it up. It doesn't really make sense in a lot of different ways. But yeah.
Any other comments? Any other? I have two names that would like to speak on this item. Stacy Chapman. I'm sorry, I am sorry.
Wait for the regular public.
Okay, thank you.
Comment.
And Nicole?
Yeah, probably I can wait as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will move on to public comment. And first on the list is Stacy Champion. I'm sorry for my mispronunciation.
Also, you guys should think about doing a different setup next time. It's super weird. It's like, and I'm the clock's not ticking yet, sir. I'm giving feedback on this setup.
Yeah.
It feels really, it doesn't feel inclusive. Like we're way over there, a bunch of people's backs to us. It just doesn't feel good, just so you know.
Good comment.
Okay.
What we can do about it, we don't control this place.
I know, but people set up rooms for meetings all the time.
That's true.
You can move things around.
I do think this one is kind of structured.
It's you can move it around.
I'm not gonna have to worry about it. Ed will.
So first off, very quickly, I just wanted to tell you what another city just did last week that I thought was really great. They, by the way, had 7 pedestrian fatalities just last year, and it was the city of Boston. The council adopted a resolution declaring speeding cars and reckless driving a public health emergency. Wow. So there's something. And just because I know there are several new people on this committee, Anybody want to take a guess at how many pedestrian and cyclist fatalities there were last year in Maricopa County? Many were in Phoenix, but Maricopa County, anybody? Wild guess?
Well, the city had 300.
Over 100.
I'm gonna say 450.
Well, no, not quite, but I mean, it's a lot. I didn't know that.
What is it?
Well, did you say, you said how many?
I'm taking the cities and then I'm extrapolating it over.
Which was 300?
Yeah, I said it's like 285, 200.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I said 450.
Yeah. But so in Beatrice, you'll appreciate this. I have all the data. I read it. I read the details of how everybody dies, how many are hit and runs. Like as an example, this 49-year-old African-American male with no known medical history was transported to a local hospital after being struck by a vehicle while crossing the street. He was unresponsive. There's a bunch of stuff that I didn't want to say because it's kind of disturbing and sad. Death was pronounced in the emergency room shortly after he arrived. He was in a crosswalk when he was struck. Misdemeanor charges will be pending against the driver. So the amount of hit and runs, the amount of people killed in crosswalks is astounding. And though I can appreciate all of the traffic engineers, whatever, maybe everybody needs to actually start reading the descriptors of the people who died on our streets. Like maybe that will snap something for everyone if you actually read how and where and why and when all these people are dying really preventable deaths. Right. Because this is a lot of people. If the city of Boston can pass a resolution for speeding and reckless driving, which is what kills people, for 7 people, what the hell are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Like, that's terrible. So that's all.
Stacy, what's the countywide number?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you were close. It's, yeah. I mean, I have, again, like, and I think I read all the data, so it's.
Time's up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your service too.
Oh, good.
Next we have Stephen Elsala, is it? And it's online and,
Hello?
is that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there he is.
Okay, Stephen.
Okay, great. Hi, I just want to say a quick bit that say that I'm happy to see Ed and Jamie appointed as chair and vice chair, respectively.
Stephen, can you speak up any to help us? We have very low volume.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Better? Okay. I just want to say a quick bit that I'm happy to see Ed and Jamie appointed as chair and vice chair, respectively. It's extremely important to have a chair that's empowered and empowering the committee to proactively assess and propose life-saving and life-improving measures. For Vision Zero to be actually successful instead of just marginally improving, I think it's important that the committee and the public are able to discuss these things like reversible lanes, leading pedestrian intervals, and just overall, safe street policies, where individuals are able to just freely choose their mode of transportation, especially walking and biking, without, having to actually, have a choice that isn't drastically, where they have to measure the risk proposition between cars and any other mode of transportation. So that's all. I thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I can't wait to see the production to come out of this committee.
So thank you for your comments. Thank you for listening in. Next I have Kristen Hegley.
Thank you very much. Again, I'd also like to congratulate Jamie and Ed on their appointments. That is fantastic. My name is Kristen Hegley. I am the Vice President of Urban Phoenix Project, which is working to make the city more walkable, bike friendly, and safer no matter how you choose to get around. The Vision Zero Committee really has a crucial mission. And I think, we can all agree that Phoenix hasn't quite yet made the progress we'd like to see towards creating safer streets. And I'd really love to see, this committee moving forward and growing and being able to make bigger recommendations beyond individual intersections that can directly impact our practices and policies citywide. As a bike commuter and someone who uses the light rail and bus system, I'm very familiar with the culture of driving here. And I do think the concept of sort of an operation slowdown and working to enforce lower vehicle speeds will really be crucial to pedestrian and cyclist safety. So that would be great to see on the agenda in the future, as well as neighborhood speed mitigation, even something as simple as potentially adding sidewalks to neighborhood streets, pushing those out into the street area rather than using existing property. It's much easier to get property owners to agree to, and it also helps reduce street width on a street like mine where I have cars speeding by and no sidewalks, and I'm not able to do a speed bump. So that would be another future agenda item I would love to see. And again, just want to congratulate Ed and Jamie. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I have been reminded that for all of us that park in this building, we have to get out of here by 7:30 or we will not be getting our cars till tomorrow morning.
Well, we have an option.
We do have an option.
So,
Okay, I'll
yeah,
clarify.
Well,
Do we have an option?
we do, we have security.
Okay, all right, then. Yeah, no, we do have more speakers. I was just. But I wasn't walking home tonight, Betty.
Where's it at? I can see what was happening.
Laura, you're fired. I'm telling you, no.
Or whatever.
I was leaving right now if I had.
Oh, I get you. Catching up. Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda, next is Ryan Boyd. Ryan? This is virtual also.
I don't know why you wanna.
Do you have him on there? Ryan, you gotta unmute, buddy.
I show him. I have to unmute him. He can't. Go ahead and skip him, Will.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Ryan. Julia Taggart? Got her on? She's on anymore.
Not letting me.
Okay, we'll go to our in-person people. Nicole?
Because they're gone. That's why. They're showing on my end, but they're gone.
All right, thank you. So I had some ideas for future agenda items in honor of our former member Jay Beeper and Senator Kern. Implementing no right on red. How about making that a topic? Should be fun. And how about an agenda item on what would Hoboken do? How about another?
What did?
Oh, whoops, you don't know about Hoboken yet?
No.
New Jersey? Okay.
Hoboken, New Jersey.
Should be an agenda item. So what would they do? The next one, of course, leading pedestrian intervals. Maybe one on paint by number. Let's use paint, see how that works out. And lastly, well, two more, the electric bikes. Streets has heard enough about it. The committee, I would like to share that it was discovered not too long ago under former street leadership, Kenny Knudsen, that the code was changed for being able to operate an e-bike from age 16 to 18 without notifying the public or council with a line strike item. It was just, boop, 18 was put in there instead of 16. And we also know 16 is not reasonable. We also know that we live in an extremely hot city. We also know that not everybody has guardians to take them to school. And we know that most of the time during school, it is extremely hot. So we need to allow kids to have healthier, safer means to get to schools. And if it's an e-bike, so be it. We need to stop, helicoptering them, because really the most dangerous thing out there is what I like to hear, and I've heard it from Ed, I've heard it from Stacy and so many others, is we're allowing 16-year-olds to drive legally 2-ton death machines. Let's put it into perspective. So let's make that a future topic on the reality of kids' lives, trying to get around, going to school and volunteering and whatever it may be. They even have jobs when they're 14 at times. And then lastly, ending the reverse lanes. We're the only city in the US that has reverse lanes going through the heart of a commercial and dynamic community center. And they're only a mile apart, and then they're only a mile apart from the I-17 and 51. That is asinine. They're Strodes. They do nothing for us. And not even North Central, sorry, Stark, not even North Central wants them anymore. So it's time to make a decision on that as well. Thanks.
Okay, so we do not have anyone online.
One, no, they're both gone.
Okay, so we have,
That I can tell.
so we have,
Ryan's back.
right.
Ryan's back. Okay, go ahead, Ryan. Oh, he didn't hear me probably.
Ryan, can you, it's the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much. For the record, Ryan Boyd at 1069 West Taylor Street with the Urban Phoenix Project. Really here just to basically state my support for the committee to really actually address the important things that we're talking about here. Leading pedestrian interval, some more items to actually try to bring real safety to the streets here in Phoenix. Either that means more protected bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. Appreciating the real the conversations that we're having here today about some leadership changes and other things that I'm hoping will empower the committee, and truly hoping that we can basically have the conversations that may be difficult, but are truly needed here in Phoenix. I don't think anyone here really wants to see the current situation we have with streets where it is as deadly and fatal as it currently is. And really want to just lend my support as a citizen to having those tough conversations and seeing what solutions can actually move forward. Thank you again for the time this evening, and thank you for bringing me on after having to hop off and hop back on. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ryan. Laura, where did you go? She's been a master. Do we have any other?
You have one on in person.
Oh, Annie Elvin, I am sorry. You were an add-on and I got lost.
Okay, thank you.
And I like your purple.
Thank you. My favorite color, you couldn't tell. So I sent an email on behalf of Phoenix spokespeople to City Manager Barton about a month ago, requesting information about what the $10 million has been spent on for the Vision Zero over the past year, because there isn't a lot of $10 million. And which is about $5 per person for the entire city of Phoenix, I think. So, you know, not too much per person. And I know Director Brown did respond saying that they are putting the report together and everything, but I think it is really important that we know what this money has been spent on, and it would be very helpful to understand where it's going to. So in the future, if this committee could be more involved with helping to allot where this money goes to really support the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That ends the list of name public comment, and with that, I would, yes, sir.
Yeah, Chair, just in response, a lot of great ideas here. And I know we've heard this a lot about staffing, but any way of prioritizing these going forward in the future would be helpful to us. We can't do 12 things at once. I'll be honest, I don't really like using the staffing word as a reason, but it's reality in this case. So if we can narrow the focus at some point going forward, the new chair, Hermes, I would appreciate that. As far as staffing goes, we are stretched thin and we're doing a lot in a very large city, and that will help us.
Yeah. Director Brown and the whole committee, one, I'm just very honored that you chose me at committee as the new chair. I'm really looking forward to leaning in this whole process, working with you, Director Brown, to prioritize that, showing people that we are making movement. You can see that there's a lot of passion and just necessity to make progress here to save lives. So really look forward to working with you and the whole team to do exactly that. So thank you so much.
With that, I will call my last meeting as chair adjourned.
Thank you.
Sure.